Welcome back to Bombastic Nation and Ting and Ting and Ting. I'm Mr. Jet and I'm back with some more vibes for we continuing the Caesar series and Ting, you know what I mean? This one is called His Year, Clodius, 58 BCE. So we gonna go in here and check out what it is and Ting, continuing that series. Thank you all for watching this with me. I really enjoy the comments that I get among the stuff that I've learned there. And I'm sure other people watching this will learn from the comments. So keep commenting, and drop a like on the video if you like it, because that tells me whether or not I should continue doing specific videos. You understand what I'm saying? Thing? I ain't gonna keep you all too long. Let's go ahead and YouTube and simmer.
Publius Clodius Culture was one of the tribunes of the plebs in 58 BCE, and we're going to talk about what he did during his year, but first we have to set the stage a bit. Before 58, Clodius had been a minor player in the reform faction. He was around for some of the events that we've talked about already. Clodius, or Claudius as he was known at this time, served as one of Cicero's bodyguards during the Catiline conspiracy in 63 BCE. Then, at the end of Cato's year as tribune of the plebs in 62, Clodius was caught in a sex scandal. Here's the short version. A religious ceremony was being held in Julius Caesar's home. This particular ceremony was being performed by women, so Caesar was gone and his wife Pompeia was leading it. For some stupid reason, Clodius dressed up as a woman and snuck into the ceremony, intent on seducing Caesar's wife. He was discovered, obviously. As you can imagine, this was a juicy scandal, and it would become the obsession of the political class. Caesar would end up divorcing his wife over this incident. Claudius
Did she do anything though?
Committing a sacrilege, and what followed became the trial of the century. Improbably, Caesar ended up as one of Claudius's most vocal supporters. This seems weird to us, and it seemed weird to people at the time, but these men were both reformers, and apparently...
I guess the bros before you know what. Bros before you know what applied even back then, because apparently, you know what I mean. But that's politics, I guess, though. Politics makes strange bedfellows. I mean, because did she do anything though? It didn't go into any details to say if she actually fell for whatever he tried, but it seems like Caesar's little ego got bruised because somebody tried to seduce his wife. Maybe they did something, I don't know. But then, one of his most staunch supporters. Bros before? Let's keep going.
Caesar was more interested in supporting his political ally than his own wife. Claudius's whole defense was that he wasn't even in Rome on the day in question. Cicero was the only person willing to testify that that wasn't true. Claudius saw this as a betrayal, and he wouldn't forget it.
Bros before.
Against all odds, Claudius was acquitted. Word is that both judge and jury benefited from huge bribes from prominent reformers. The ruling was just as scandalous as the crime itself. Anyway, let's jump ahead. Claudius would go on to be elected quaestor, and would receive a lifetime appointment to the Senate as a result. During Caesar's year in 59, Claudius got it into his head that he wanted to run for tribune of the plebs. Why? Here's my theory. The system for electing praetors and consuls was heavily weighted towards the rich and powerful. These people hated Claudius's guts from the whole sex scandal thing. He was still a few years away from being eligible for praetor, but he needed to beef up his resume if he wanted to stand a chance. Plus, we shouldn't overlook the fact that Caesar's election in 59 was a big turning point for the reform faction. They had been in the political wilderness ever since the Catiline conspiracy, and Claudius was eager to be part of Caesar's new populist wave. But there was one catch. Claudius was part of an old patrician family and was therefore ineligible to run for tribune of the plebs. The hint is in the name. The tribune actually had to be a plebeian. So with the help of Caesar and Pompey, Claudius came up with a scheme to get around this restriction. He renounced his patrician status and was adopted into some random plebeian family, with Caesar as Rome's head priest conducting the adoption ceremony. The whole thing was a farce. His new adoptive father was younger than he was. To show off his new plebeian status, Claudius changed his name to Clodius, and immediately threw his hat in the ring to become one of next year's...
He changed his name, wow.
He won. I've mentioned this before, but tribunes of the plebs started their terms in December, so he got to overlap a little bit with Caesar's term as consul. The first notable thing he did, and we can now recognize the full importance of this act, was to veto Bibulus' final speech on his last day as consul. Clodius wanted to align himself publicly with Caesar, and humiliating Bibulus was a great way to do just that. Clodius came in with a full slate of populist reforms he wanted to pass, very ambitious for a tribune of the plebs. First, he proposed a bill that made the grain dole not just heavily subsidized, but 100% free for all qualifying Romans. You can just imagine how this drove the conservatives crazy.
That leads the question to these days. If like, okay, I'll give a modern example of this. Bill Clinton. Some people said he did good for the people. Others may say different. Now we had this little rendezvous in the White House. You know what I mean? Staying dressed and all kinds of stuff. Do we forget that? Notwithstanding everything else he's been accused of doing. Let's say that's just it. Do we forgive that if he has done any good for the people? Because my man is passing all these progressive, agendas and things like the grain dole. If I'm not mistaken, and how it was for them back then was different. If I'm wrong, hit me up below. But for basic understanding of what's going on, he's passing progressive vibes for those people, right? So do we forget that? Do the people forget that? Or is that part of his character that would forecast everything or foreshow everything that he might do to the people in the future if he's got total political ambitious reasons for doing what he did? Because why would he try to seduce Caesar's wife, even though he agrees with what Caesar is doing? Is he's looking for power? What's going on here? You gotta ask that. So we do the same thing with Bill Clinton, or we do the same thing with Trump. He's talking about grabbing by the, you know what I mean. And I'm going with what's happening here where I live. I don't know how it is where you are. Hit me up in the comment section if there's anything similar going on where you are. I know some of the other leaders have had sex scandals and stuff, and then we got away. Is this more important? The sex scandal is more important to if he's doing any good for the people, or if he's just a total idiot who is not doing good for the people, but satisfying his own carnal pleasures. Or you gotta decide from there. It's kind of, I won't say it's sad, because hey, they're human too. They're gonna do dumb stuff, male or female. But what's forgivable and what's not? And if we're forgiving them or we're not forgiving them, what have they done or what are they doing for the people? That's the question. Do we overlook certain things? Let's keep going.
Cato had radically expanded the grain dole in an attempt to mollify the reformers. I guess it didn't work. After Cato and Clodius expanded and deepened the grain dole, it took up a significant portion of Rome's annual budget. Cicero raised objections to the high cost of this bill, just like he did last time with Cato. But with two reformers as consuls, Cicero didn't have enough support to halt the momentum of the populists. The bill passed. Clodius then introduced the bill, further aligning himself with Caesar. The bill would take away the consul's ability to shut down public business over bad omens. This was one of the tools that Bibulus had used when he attempted to undermine Caesar's year as consul. With this bill, the message was clear. The reformers intended to have electoral success going forward, and these little procedural tricks weren't going to fly anymore. What Bibulus did was still very unpopular with the public, so the bill passed easily. Cato had made Caesar's life a living hell during his year, and Clodius wanted to eliminate him as a potential threat. His plan was a little complicated, but here it goes. Clodius argued that in the east, the island of Cyprus, which was an autonomous region under Egypt's influence, rightfully belonged to Rome. Remember, Egypt had been left in a will to the Roman Republic, and Rome hadn't really done anything about it. So Caesar had settled the issue by accepting huge bribes and renouncing Rome's claim. Clodius introduced legislation arguing that this deal didn't extend to Cyprus, since it wasn't technically part of Egypt. Was Clodius right? In a strictly legal sense, maybe, but it seemed clear to me that the spirit of Caesar
sounds like Puerto Rico situation with here to me.
After only a year, Rome was beginning to chip away at that agreement. After that bill was passed, he followed it up with another one, saying that Cato should officially oversee Rome's annexation of Cyprus. This was just a ploy to get Cato out of the way, by sending him overseas to do a job that any nameless bureaucrat could do. But Cato felt honor-bound to obey the will of the Senate, so he went. Clodius was a busy lad, but it was all building to a purpose. He introduced another piece of legislation, taking away the provinces that had been assigned to the sitting consuls, and giving them more prestigious and wealthy ones instead. Clodius was doing two things here. He was signaling to the reformers that we take care of our own, and he was basically bribing the consuls for what would come next. Now the stage was set. All of Clodius's machinations so far were building to this. He introduced a bill that would make it retroactively illegal for any public official to execute any citizen without trial. Key word, retroactively. There was no mistaking who this bill was targeting. The only living person it applied to was Cicero, who had executed the ringleaders of the Catiline conspiracy in his year. He had done so with the approval of the Senate, but it didn't matter. This bill would make it illegal anyway. The two sitting consuls, being sympathetic reformers and sufficiently bribed, backed the bill. It's a testament to the strong populist energy in the air that Cicero's personal popularity in the Senate wasn't enough to stop this from happening. The bill passed. Finally, Clodius would have his revenge. He officially charged Cicero for the executions of the prisoners during the Catiline conspiracy.
Wow.
When they went to trial,
My
Clodius
man is a hell of a
seemed to get lot of
politician.
support from the
A
people.
politrickster.
At times, the onions in attendance could get pretty rowdy, and at the end of each day when Cicero would walk home, a group would follow him, shouting insults and pelting him with stones.
What?
Cicero began to fear for his life. After several days of this, he made the difficult decision to flee the city. Clodius jumped all over this. As soon as he found out, he introduced another bill, formally banishing Cicero and seizing all of his property. The trial showed how much influence Clodius was gaining out on the streets, and the Senate didn't have the courage to say
Oh
that
yeah,
against
my
him.
man is
The bill
for the
passed, and
streets.
Cicero would spend the next year of his life in exile. Like the rest of the Senate,
It's all
Pompey stayed
politics.
quiet during the debate to banish Cicero, but Pompey liked Cicero, and more importantly, he liked his politics. He began working behind the scenes to gather the support from other senators to overturn Cicero's banishment. Clodius caught wind of this and ordered his growing gang out on the street to focus their attention on Pompey. They gave him the same treatment they gave Cicero, and it got so bad that Pompey didn't feel safe leaving his home. They may not have realized it at the time, but Clodius had effectively seized control of the government. Rome's politics were broken. But Clodius's opponents had one more trick up their sleeve, and it's the oldest political trick in the book. They just decided to buckle down and wait him out. 8 of the 10 tribunes of the plebs
Oldest
joined
politrick.
forces and blocked all significant legislation from everybody. Pompey and other senators started lobbying next year's consuls to overturn Cicero's banishment after Clodius was out of office. It would take months and months of hard work, but in time, the Senate would get Cicero home. Clodius's year may have ended with Gridlock, but he would go down as the most consequential tribune of the plebs in more than 60 years. And in the years to follow, his influence would only grow.
Man, some serious politricking my man did there. I enjoyed this one. This one was pretty cool, you know what I mean? It's sort of showed a little parallels to a modern day vibe going on in this part of the world, you know what I mean? The usual, the bribing of the senators and stuff to get what he wants, you know what I mean? And the banishing of those that he didn't want to have any influence at all. Wow, that's some cool stuff there. But anyway, man, I hope you guys enjoyed this one as much as I enjoyed this one. I'm gonna leave a link in the description to this video, so go check it out. The thing, you know what I mean? And please drop the comments. Some of you have been pretty consistent commenting about Julius Caesar, and someone has said that I don't have it in alignment or something like that. I'm going to try to figure that out because I'm learning this as I go along, so I don't know which year to which year it's going. I'm just going by I found a series of it, and I'm just going from top to the bottom, you know what I mean? That's how I'm doing it, and I'm learning. Don't know much about it, so I'm learning as I go along too, so just bear with me. I hope you guys are, you know, enjoying life, staying safe, you know what I mean? And in the meantime and thing, y'all take care of each other, all right? Cool runnings.